gavel in the special November 3rd Ways and Means Committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Chairwoman Sims.
Here.
Alderman Gould.
Here.
Alderman Shelton.
Here.
Alderwoman Tice. Here. All members present.
Great, thank you. Item number 2, approval or amendment of the agenda. We've had some discussion before the commencement of this meeting. And the proposal has been to, once we get to item 4A on the agenda, that we'll take up the Brentwood-bound presentation first, and then stick a pin in those issues and go to item 4B, and then return to item 4A. Is there any issue with taking up the agenda that way? Good, thank you. That'll be approved by acclamation. Otherwise, subject to that amendment, any other issues or questions about the agenda? All right, that'll be stand approved as amended. Item 3 is the report of the committee chair. I have no report other than thank you everybody for all the hard work that's gone into reviewing this budget and attending all these special meetings and the work that went into it. I feel like this, subject to the events unfolding this evening, it's gone rather well. So grateful for that. Alderman Gould?
Yes, I just have one follow-up for Eric that you don't have to answer it now unless you would like to. On the Memorial Park bridge replacement, I realize that we didn't, when we were talking about this, we didn't cover it in a sense of the last budget for those has always been, and I think for the past 2 years, has been $90,000 for that. So I'm just curious on why the 355% increase to 320,000 for just that bridge, not including the other bridge in Memorial Park. Just a question for us on.
We'll address that later.
That's fine. That's why I wanted to say it now, and then you can address it later. Yep.
Okay, Alderman Shelton?
No report.
Alderwoman Tice?
No report.
Okay, next item on the agenda is City Administrator's Report. 4A is, I think that's a continuation of the budget presentations. Do we have Craig on the online? With
Craig
Brentwood
is
Bound?
available. Mhm. Craig.
I see him up there, or I see his
Yeah.
box up there.
Oh. My internet's not stable. Can you let my phone in? I did ask him to.
Craig,
Not
can you
me.
just try speaking into your phone? I think it's your participant now on that. Has he added any additional comments? It looks like there's some activity in the chat bubble.
Okay, he's muted, but I don't really, he's unmuted.
He's on the 205, yeah.
How come can you hear him out? I don't think it's me. All, y'all haven't, like, he looks unmuted.
He said that Brad can hear him.
Else can hear him on the,
Oh, I think Brad Lukens can, he indicated that he could hear him on his end. Zoom is broken. But we also can't hear Brad.
Oh, okay. I'm going to put you on speaker. That's right. Okay. Craig? Can you hear me? Oh, just a minute. How about now? Craig,
Yes.
go ahead.
All right. Sorry, y'all. And it sounds like if Brad's got a report, you have similar issues with Brad. So get ready to call him because Brad and I were like talking to ourselves. So sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm going to run through the Brentwood-bound budget update. This is similar to the previous update. I'm sharing my screen, but my internet's a little stable. But it's the budget update that's inside your budget book. So I'm just going to be going page by page. So starting on page 2, Brentwood-bound, again, consists of multiple projects. The first is Deer Creek flood mitigation. There are 2 phases of that, phase 1 and phase 2. Manchester Road improvements, Deer Creek Greenway connector, phase A and B, Comfort Station building, and the West Community Credit Union event lawn. And last but not least, the destination playground and water play area. Going to page 3, there are 4 funding categories that we've been using throughout the project. The first one is construction costs. The next is soft costs, which includes fees for consultants, permits, communications, printing, and legal. Next is property acquisitions, and the last one is contingency. Next is the 2023 projected budget. So this slide shows that the previous expenditures and the projections for the rest of 2022 are $83,967,124. And then next year, 2023, we project the remaining funds to be spent, which are $13,409,409, which gets us to the grand total of $97,376,533. Going to the next page, page 5. This is my traditional funding source update that's provided along with the city administrator update at every Board of Alderman meeting. So this funding source spreadsheet is from the September 23rd meeting. So there are a lot of categories of funding, which is really exciting because that shows all the additional funds the city has been able to receive. So what you see in this is all the various categories of funding. You see the amounts that have been either granted or dedicated to the project, and then the funds received are on the right-hand side. So again, this was as of September 23rd, and then every couple of weeks the city receives more reimbursements from various grant agencies, which are then updated and then reported to the board. One update here is there are risks with this project. Some of these risks we've been talking about at various meetings with the Board of Aldermen in closed session. And we don't know yet how many of those risks will come to fruition. But there is a good chance that some of the additional funding sources, which are at the bottom of the spreadsheet, may have to be tapped into to supplement contingency, again, as we've talked about before. Going to the next page, we go through 2022 key activities. There's been a lot of exciting things that have happened at Brentwood-bound this year. The first was Green Street was selected as a master developer. Brentwood and Green Street are currently working on contract negotiations. Next, the city received naming rights donation from the West Community Credit Union for the event lawn in the amount of $400,000. The flood mitigation phase 1, the project experienced several large floods which delayed progress. It's anticipated that all improvements, except the landscaping, will be completed this year or end of 2022. Flood mitigation phase 2, the project experienced several large floods which delayed progress. It's anticipated that all remaining portions of this project will be completed in spring of 23. Deer Creek Greenway connector, Part A, that's the park and trail that's within Brentwood Park. The Brentwood Park parking lot was completed. We had the privilege of parking on it today for the playground groundbreaking. Significant amount of trails and retaining walls are being installed. The project did experience several large floods this year, which delayed progress. It's anticipated that all improvements will be completed by spring of '23. Manchester Road improvements, the tunnel will be completed in '22. And just to clarify that, that's just the tunnel structure. That doesn't mean pedestrians can go through it in 2022. The actual north and southern entrances and park improvements to the tunnel won't be done until summer of '23 with the Manchester Road project, and that's when pedestrians can start going through the tunnel. The new bridge east of Hanley in Manchester Road was completed, and then new sidewalks and ship-reduced paths will be installed throughout the project. Deer Creek Greenway Connector Part B, Russell Avenue and Brentwood Boulevard section. So the design was completed and it was issued to MoDOT East West Gateway. That's the grant authority for this project for review and approval to go out to bid. The city secured all properties except 3 easements along Russell Avenue. This report was made a month or so ago, and right now we're going through negotiations on those last 3 easements. So that should hopefully be wrapped up in the next month or so. The city continues to work with Union Pacific, MoDOT, and St. Louis County on the railroad crossing agreements and contracts. The Pavilion West Community Credit Union is substantially complete. We had the privilege of going through that space today. We're working on punch lists now, and that'll be completed by end of this year. And then the Brentwood Destination Playground and Water Play Area, the city received a $370,000 municipal park grant this year. For this project, the Board of Aldermen approved Clocker Construction as a general contractor on August 31st, and construction has started, and we were able to celebrate the groundbreaking several hours ago. So in 2023, we've got a lot of fun activities coming up. Brentwood bound, the city will continue to negotiate on the contract with Green Street. The city and their consultants will continue to submit grants and partnerships with the goal of receiving more money for Brentwood bound. The flood mitigation phase 1, it's anticipated that just the remaining portions, which are landscaping, will be done in spring of '23. And then the flood mitigation phase 2, the remaining portions of this project will be again completed spring of '23. This allows the city to submit the LOMAR, which is the letter of map revision in 2023, which will then adjust the flood maps, which is exciting and one of the main goals of this project. Deer Creek Greenway Connector Part A, that's a part of Brentwood Park. The remaining portions of this project will be completed in spring of '23. Manchester Road improvements will be done in summer of '23. The Deer Creek Greenway Connector Part B, which is Russell Avenue and Brentwood Boulevard. So assuming we can get through these Union Pacific agreements and contracts, we can go out to bid and start construction first quarter of '23. Assuming we can start construction in '23, this whole project will be done by end of '23. And then last, the Destination Playground. With the project starting and in construction right now, it's anticipated that this project will be completed fall or winter of '23. So with all that, there's some risks out there, but the goal is to complete all improvements for Brentwood bound in '23, which allows for all the bills to come in and be paid out, therefore not carrying any funds over to 2024. So not that I don't enjoy doing this and being with you all, but this may and hopefully will be the last budget for Brentwood bound that goes to you all. So that's my update, and I can take any questions.
Questions? Craig, it's hard for me to imagine a Board of Aldermen meeting without you, so.
Exactly.
Did you hear that?
No.
She says it's going to be hard to imagine a Board of Aldermen meeting without you.
I'll still pop in just to hang out with you guys because I like you all.
Alderman Gould?
The only thing I wanted to point out is there's just some typos instead of Park A and Park B and Park, it should be Part. It should just be Part A and Part B.
Want to say that?
Oh, the only question that I had, or just clarification, is just some typos in the Deer Creek Greenway Connector listings for key activities and anticipated key activities. It should be part with a P, with a T
Yes.
instead of park. But other than that,
Thank you for that.
good report.
I unfortunately just noticed that when I was reading it. I'm like, ooh, that's not good. But thanks, Jeff. I'll fix that and correct that.
Thank you, Craig. For those listening online, Eric says that the word
Great, thank you.
Okay,
didn't
fine.
didn't catch it. Correction. auto correction.
All right. I don't think we have any further questions for Craig. Thank you. So then we'll stick a pin in our budget presentations and we'll take up item 4B with Greg Lukens, who's on, or Brad, sorry. Is he able to be heard, or is he experiencing?
so.
Oh, good, yeah, we hear you fine.
Good.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm Brad Lukens. I'll hop in here. That's exciting stuff from Craig. So now that we're already on the topic of money and spending it, let's talk about earning some. I figured I'd give you a quick market update from last month. Here we are. You know, a lot of you probably were aware that yesterday the Federal Reserve raised the Fed funds rate another 3/4 of a point. And so my mental picture of this is the Federal Reserve is walking down a tightrope. And on one side is inflation going out of control, and the other side is thrusting us into a recession. If they raise rates too quickly, they'll thrust us into a recession by slowing the economy so quickly, making the cost of money so much we don't spend, we thrust ourselves into a recession. If they don't do it enough, we'll just be chasing the rate of inflation. It seems to be flattened off around 8%. Yesterday was 8.2. They raised the Fed funds rate yesterday, so we'll see. But the rate of inflation is slowly curving. The Fed raising the Fed funds rate, it certainly has a direct effect on us in our borrowing. If you were to issue another bond, car loans and credit cards and all that stuff. It does have some upward pressure on bond yields. So we've been experiencing and enjoying a lot of that throughout the year. So we, thankfully, we've been able to do some reinvestments here just recently at some significantly higher yields than what you have seen in the last, really over COVID. So without going through each of the summary reports that I believe you guys have, I thought I'd just hit on a couple of highlights. You know, we've got all this money laddered out so that securities are maturing kind of short, middle, and a little bit longer term to protect you in rising and falling rate environments. The 2019 bond reserve fund, that is page 10 of 11, if you have that report. Let's see, we reinvested that money. You see the due date was 11/3, which is today. This report was put together several days ago, so it's already out of date. But we reinvested close to $800,000 a couple days ago. Actually, I'm sorry, that was today. And we were able to get a security at 4.75%. So when I spoke to Bola, we were expecting about 4.45. So we were very thankful to get the 30 extra basis points. So that security will mature November of 24, and a yield getting close to 5% is spectacular. We haven't seen rates that high since early 2007. Then if we go, I believe, to the last page, also today, there was $1,013,000 that matured. We also already had $2.5 million in money market. And as you all know, Craig and Bola and I work very closely together on working on Craig's estimated expenditure spreadsheet and trying to reinvest every bit that we can, especially in this market, to earn everything that we can. So we identified $405,000 of that money that was able to be reinvested. We went out until February 28th of 23, so just a few months. We were able to get about a 4.2% yield on that money. And then, of course, the rest of it had to remain liquid for expenses that are coming up here in the near future. If you go to the earnings report, there's a summary that has all of the bond issues, the debt service reserve funds and the project funds. So that we have finally thrust ourselves over the $2 million of interest earnings. And so we're now at $2,017,698 that you all have earned just by having all of this idle cash invested. And we have been able to do that through the majority of this time through COVID. So I can't imagine what it would be if COVID didn't hit us, but it is what it is. Does anybody have any questions so far?
I'm not seeing any. That all sounds
Okay.
like good news.
I've got one more thing that I wanted to talk to you all about and just kind of toss out an idea to ponder. Now that we have interest rates that have really risen significantly, I do have a bit of concern that if we do fall into a recession, or if we already are in one, if it gets worse, there eventually will be another shift of the stock market dropping, and there's going to be a significant amount of money probably going into the bond market. When that happens, bond yields go down and prices go up. There's a good opportunity in today's environment to invest any available excess money that you may have. I have quite a few clients, and really over the last 3 months or so, that have added additional money that they've been able to identify and take advantage of these 4% and 5% yields. And it certainly beats whatever they're getting in money market. You all have a neighbor municipality who recently identified 23 million after, I don't know, 5 years that I've managed $250,000 of excess general fund money for them. And they're about $750,000 of interest earnings and having money maturing every month. So it's pretty significant benefit to the city. And BOLA had found some money that, or not found it, but had identified some that may be able to be invested and earn additional money for the city. And so what I did, and I think we just wanted to see if this gains traction, and we can, BOLA and I can discuss this more and come together with you next month with a plan. But I took about $12.5 million and I put it into like a mock portfolio for you. And I picked securities. These are all US Treasury bonds, US government agency bonds. They mature every month from January to October of 24. So basically every month for 2 years. And those yields to you are basically 4 to 4.85%. Those the earnings, assuming that you did not reinvest, you just bought each security and you had them for 2 months and then 4 months and then a year and so on, would be $624,000 additional interest earnings that the city, I don't believe, is earning now. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, give you those numbers. And if there's interest, then BOLA and I can put together a plan to discuss with you all at the next meeting.
That Brad talks about are sitting in money market accounts. So I've been discussing this with Gina ever since Brad shared the example of the other municipality with me. And as we know, money market accounts don't really earn a whole lot. So we are looking at approximately 12.5 million and we want to make sure that there's still enough money left so that we can continue to pay bills. And if something incidental comes up, we can pay that too. But we preliminarily have identified 12.5 million that we would like to invest in accordance with the city's investment policy. So at the next meeting, I'll bring a memo and cite specific sections of the investment policy. But what this would require us to do is to close a certain bank account that holds the money market and then open a brokerage account and then we would transfer those funds there, and then we could invest it, as Brad alluded to earlier. And the investment policy does authorize the city administrator and the director of finance to have custody of all these city monies, and we, according to the policy as well, have to make sure that we are investing in instruments that are permissible according to the state of Missouri, and we continue to do that. So if the board, if the committee agrees, of course, this is preliminary, but up to 624,000 additional revenue that can be earned for the city. So we would like to pursue that.
Doing that would keep us liquid enough to.
Yeah.
keep lights
And if
on
we have
and then-
to sell some early, we do, but we're gonna do the layered approach, Brad, so that.
Yes,
you-
and this was just to kind of get the juices flowing. I just evenly broke up 12.5 million by each of the securities. So that's $568,000 that would be maturing monthly.
So we'd be covered.
Yeah.
Motion to that effect?
I
to
mean,
direct
are you
I mean,
willing?
more money is better than less money.
If you're
so it's
comfortable, then
certainly,
you can vote on it tonight, directing me to move forward with that.
I guess to put together a memo.
Yeah, for the next meeting.
I would say I'm comfortable looking into it. I'm not
Into it.
comfortable voting to approve
Okay.
it now, but
Yeah.
you're definitely comfortable looking into it and then learning,
More.
really analyzing the investment policy for the city,
Oh,
so we
sure.
can make a great decision next month. So,
Right,
yeah.
right, okay. We'll bring it back.
And, yeah, and I would like to make sure it includes, you know, what are the processing fees, brokerage fees, all of that.
All of that, right.
Information versus what we pay for maintenance on, you know, the accounts that
Being
are
in the
there
money
already.
market.
Right.
Right, okay, we'll bring that back. Thank you, Brad.
Great, is there anything?
Okay. All right. Is that all for me?
Yes,
Okay.
Right.
Thank
Yeah,
you. I
that's it,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
Sorry, two people were talking at once. I think that's just, I don't think you need a motion to
No,
do a memo.
no.
That's just,
yeah, you don't,
get a memo.
yeah, that's just,
We're gonna prepare the preparations. Okay, great. So we're going back to item 4A, continuing our budget presentations. The next one up is the fire department. So come on down.
Good evening. Try and be brief, as brief as the mayor was today at his speech, so keep this moving. Just review the mission statements and vision statements for the Brentwood Fire Department. This was updated this year as part of our strategic plan, and this is certainly intertwined throughout our budget process. So our mission statement, simply provide excellence through service. And the vision is to be the leader in public safety through excellence in delivery and responsiveness for everyone. Personally, to me, the key word there is everyone. That is all of our customers, all of those that need service, but it's also those that work for us. So we need to be all-inclusive. Some accomplishments to review for fiscal year '22. We did increase our authorized positions by one with the hiring of the full-time fire marshal. Part of his work, he did complete commercial occupancy inspections, all in the city of Brentwood, which we were overdue. We had several lapses there. He successfully completed them. He continues to meet with business owners and occupants on a daily basis and making strides, making those buildings safer in our community. It's been an incredible addition to our department. We did, as I stated earlier, implemented the strategic plan with mission-specific goals and objectives. We improved our capabilities for ice rescue operations. Some of you were able to witness that at Brentwood Forest. Very proud of this next one. This is hot off the press, been announced since I submitted this budget plan. We completed our reassessment for Verisk ISO rating, and Monday we were notified our rating has been improved to a Class 2. This does go in effect in February of '23. I will provide more of a breakdown at public safety meeting in November, but very excited for that. There's a lot of investment that the city of Brentwood has made to attain that rating. As far as our capital accomplishments, we did replace all the firefighting helmets, a cardiac monitor, which continues to be on back order. We will be receiving a demo unit prior to the end of the year to fulfill that obligation. And then we just received our CPR assist device. So that does close out our capital purchases for '22. We entered our training consortium with Clayton, Maplewood, and Richmond Heights. We entered an agreement with West County Fire and EMS to use their facility for our trainings, so our live burns. We're concluding those tomorrow for 2022. That is important because that helps us earn points for our ISO rating. It also keeps our folks fresh. That gives us 4 opportunities throughout the year to do these types of scenarios at a burn facility. So it's been a great addition. And as you all voted to approve the purchase of a new fire truck, which arrives in 2025, again, that is an addition after my budget was submitted. A great accomplishment for the city of Brentwood. Our goals moving into '23, continue improving the health and wellness of our firefighters. We have discussed this at length, and it is on the next Board of Aldermen meeting, is participation in the Missouri Firefighter Critical Illness Pool. Continue improving the technical rescue capabilities. It's a continuous process that does include some expenditures in our capital budget as well. Improve ambulance fees revenue. We continue to monitor this extensively. As part of our miscellaneous contractual, there is an increase due to a contract with PCG Consulting. We have mandatory reporting to Medicare that we have to complete in fiscal year '23. In the end, once all of that data is submitted to Medicare, we anticipate rate changes coming from Medicare. We do intend to acquire an off-road utility vehicle capable of transporting those that are ill or injured off the roadways. Professional development and training opportunities for all staff, includes fire marshal, obviously the firefighters and the administrative staff as well. And then create professional development career path matrix for each position. This comes into play with the engineer position specifically, but also those that are not officers, captains, lieutenants. What does their career path matrix need to look like? So we need to fine tune that, and we intend to do that through some training and professional development. And finally, our communication to the public, redesign and update our department's webpage and strengthen our social media presence. I think we have a lot of work to do there. There's a lot of opportunity just for us to try and stay current. Some changes in our expenditures moving forward. The staffing level remains the same, but as you know, we did request a specific engineer position, and that was approved as a stipend position. We will start that promotional process in 2 weeks. So the application period to submit resumes and letter of intent concludes tomorrow, and we look forward to that process. Again, salaries and benefits increase just proportional to the 95th percentile of our comparators. The critical illness pool is included in employee benefits. After retirements, we are at the $2,130 mark is what it will cost us for next year, for fiscal year '23. Supplies and materials, you will notice a pretty significant bump in this line. And I initially brought this to the city administrator as a capital expense, However, further discussion, there's not a single item that falls in the definition of a capital expense. These are all furniture needs and replacements in our fire station. For example, our mattresses are 12 years old, and we are seeking to replace those mattresses. It is, again, like I said, a one-time bump in this year. We knew it would not be funded as a capital due to availability of funds and the definition, both. Educational benefits would increase to $9,000, and that is the addition of another individual seeking a degree. Travel and meetings, there is a slight increase. Again, that is to accommodate the professional development. I do know of 2 individuals that will be traveling to the National Fire Academy in fiscal year 23, so this is to support that venture. The petrol products, you name the price, but we are over budget, I think, like all departments this year. However, after July, our monthly expenses do align with what is submitted for fiscal year 23. And then again, miscellaneous contractual, there are some increases. Again, the mandatory reporting for Medicare is included in that, and that's a $2,500 agreement. I'll be taking that to public safety in November. But also the upgrades with ECDC, we did see some expenses to our department for connectivity, with all the vehicles and devices that we were not previously paying for. Those are the significant increases for miscellaneous contractual. In training, tried to break this out a little bit more in detail, the increased expense there. So with the fire marshal and expanding our community risk reduction, that includes additional training opportunities for the fire marshal, also for some of the firefighters, but we'll be doing some detailed commercial building assessments. Fire marshal got a very big taste of that after the floods, doing damage assessments. We want to do pre-plan assessments now moving forward. So we improve our pre-plan process and the public fire education component, expanding that. And then additional specific training, as I've mentioned before, for the firefighters and for the fire marshal. We are working on still obtaining a drone potentially out of fiscal year 22's budget, potentially. And so providing training for the fire marshal primarily, and the assistant chief would be the primary pilots for our department, but also share it with other departments that would be able to have pilots trained. The capital expenditures, some technical rescue equipment specific to auto extrication is kind of the biggest need right now due to some aging equipment. It just times out after so many years. The bags that you see displayed there are kind of multi-purpose. They are very unique in nature, and so we just look to expand our capabilities with that. And the utility vehicle that we've discussed a few times. Obviously, that's just a stock photo. I don't know what the end result would look like, but there are multiple government programs for UTVs for specific fire use and transporting patients. Questions?
So I had a question on supplies and materials and why that was up 31,000 from last year. Is that the mattresses?
That's part of it, mattresses and other equipment or furniture within the fire station.
So 30,000 isn't just for mattresses, there's other stuff.
Correct.
Maybe this tells you how often I replace my mattress at home, but like, it's not 12 years. Like, we have some really, is that a necessity for the firefighters, and does that take you back to your vision statement of everyone? And is that the everyone piece? Is this something that they're asking for, or are you just replacing them because it's been a certain number of years? And, I sort of feel like mattresses are different than safety equipment in how the public is served. So
completely understand. Yes, I've had multiple requests for these to be replaced. They were purchased whenever the firehouse was purchased. Built, thank you. They need to be replaced. I can only speak to myself and my experience. I've had a hip surgery. So I have a mattress, foam mattress topper on there. They're uncomfortable.
Okay, perfect. That's great. And then the drone, you mentioned maybe trying to get a drone this year. What's the purpose of a drone for the department?
Absolutely. So a public safety drone to be flown in all conditions. We requested a drone during the recent floods, and the one locally that we requested could not be flown due to the conditions. And most of the rain was past at that point. We were trying to search some areas. What we have found is one that can fly in 40-mile-an-hour winds with rain. We've done a lot of homework on that. So in flooding events, for search and rescue, for building assessments, we find a lot of uses, and that's just specific to our department. When we look to share across the other departments, they have also specific needs.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I had a question about that as well. I mean, I think that, is that going to be equipped with camera technology that'll allow it to see heat signatures and things that, you know, for example, if you're looking for hotspots
Correct.
in a building that might be, and then also for maybe the police department if they're searching for
Correct.
criminal activity.
Searching for a lost person.
Searching for a lost person.
Correct.
So, I mean, I think that's important that we start looking at technology like that for those purposes, and making sure that we're continually trained on how to use them so that when the time comes, because I think that can significantly cut down identifying major issues, more so than maybe people on the ground or even canines or something like that, you know.
I mean, and frankly, before the fire marshal was on board, I couldn't afford to cut someone loose from performing their duties to go fly an aircraft. I needed all hands on deck. We saw Tim cannot be performing fire inspections or even training sessions with the public during events such as the floods, so having him available to us, it was very valuable. He did some post-damage assessment with his personal drone following the event. That is not public safety rated, and hence we just kept digging and doing more research, and we've come for
Do
that
those
conclusion.
operators need to be part of a public safety department, or if other people have the operator's license for a drone
They would
in other
certainly-
departments, could they be
We're certainly willing and
tapped
open to
into
that.
for those?
Absolutely.
Okay. I had the same questions about the supplies and materials, so thank you for answering those.
I have a question on the mattresses, just out of curiosity. How do we source those? And I know sometimes we talk about like a state contract. Is there an option to like jump onto that? Or I don't know, is there an option for fire departments to buy en masse?
Yes.
Okay.
State contract, honestly, I can't answer that right now. But yes, there are other purchasing agreements that are out there that allow for items like that.
Okay.
Alderman Lockmuller, I won't put you on the spot, except I'll put you on the spot. If you had any questions, I'd be happy to. Questions, so
Thank you.
last but certainly not least.
We have a few summary items based on questions that were asked at the last meeting.
Okay.
And then an update regarding the St. Louis County matter, unless you think the email's sufficient.
I'd like to go through it. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Are we last, Mrs. Sims?
I think you
We
are
are the
the,
last?
yeah, you're the
Never
last
good to be last.
main department to present, but then I think there's some stray issues we might circle back to, but.
Dancing, though. Start off with the mission statement for the Brentwood Police Department. Without reading it to you, I think the last line is the key, is the key part of our mission statement as we serve the public here in Brentwood with respect, fairness, and compassionate people that we're serving. When we looked at the goals for 2023 going into next year, the first thing that you see is to review our general orders. For those of you that don't know, we have a very lengthy and specific set of rules for the police department, like all departments do. Ours is a bit antiquated. We're working our way through trying to freshen up our general orders, and it's a large undertaking. It's really labor-intensive, time-consuming thing to do, but it needs to be done, and so we'll be doing that over the course of 2023. We've started already in late 22. We'll be implementing some equipment that has been purchased, including BOLA authorizes us to buy some state-of-the-art spike strips that allow officers to deploy spikes at a very reduced risk to our officers. There's been plenty of police officers injured deploying spike strips at a fleeing car. Usually it's related to holding on to the strips too long. These strips we can deploy from a distance with a push button, which makes this ton safer. So we have not trained on those yet. We just got them, so they're not. But for 2023, that's an example of the equipment that we'll be looking at to implement. 2023, an additional training, we are looking at and have started the professional development program for our supervisors in the police department and for prospective supervisors, including command classes for our current sergeants and corporal ranks. So we hope to put more through next year in a command class environment. Those are extremely valuable for leadership skills and other things that we think are important. We're building upon our flock camera system, which continues to be a success here in Brentwood. We petitioned that earlier, as you know, that BOLA allow us to buy 7 cameras. We're still one short, and that was a year ago, I think, at least. So we're still waiting on St. Louis County to complete that last one. It's close, but we'd like to grow the system, including down by the park, the new park area. We've really kind of pushed our way into some businesses along, especially along Eager, who have seen the value of the flock system, bought it themselves, but we get to look at their cameras as well. So we also get to share these cameras with other cities immediately. As an example of that, we're doing an MOU with the city of Maplewood, who wants to buy flock cameras but put them on our side of Hanley Road. So great idea, because we don't have to pay anything for them, but we get the benefit for them because we get to watch them too. So expanding that flock program is one of our goals in 23. Organizational development, we've asked that through BOLA, we've asked that we promote 2 of our 6 sergeants to the rank of lieutenant, and they assume the role of commanders in charge of the 2 platoons in our police department. We saw huge value in doing this on many levels, and without the backfill promotions for sergeants, it was a minimal cost increase for the city. Quite frankly, we are dumping tons more responsibility on 2 of our sergeants as lieutenants and getting that at a very inexpensive rate for the service that they'll provide. So as we move into January, if it's approved in the budget, we will promote 2 people to the rank of lieutenant. They will assume the rank of watch commander with a lot of responsibilities that we'll designate once those promotions are made. That promotion process, once approved by you guys on the Board of Aldermen, will begin probably the next day after the approval. So we hope that in mid-January we'll have identified the 2 lieutenants. One of the last item that you see there under goals is to build on our community relations. We started this program that we're really going to focus on in 2023, and that's our bike and foot patrols, with the emphasis of our officers riding their bikes, but get off on foot in your neighborhoods and have more in-person contact with our citizens. So far, we started the program last month, and so far it's been very successful. Getting a lot of good feedback from people that have talked to our officers. So we're going to try and expand that. It's a little complicated in that we have to get officers trained to be bike officers before they can get out on foot. So, and that's a little bit more of a challenge than you may imagine. It's a week school, and you have to be certified to train it. We have to go to, last time we had to go to the St. Louis City Police Department to do that. You have to have spots. It's a popular class. So anyway, as we go into 2023, we're going to, bike patrols and then foot patrols will be an emphasis. For 2022, in the accomplishment list that you see in front of you, I won't hit on all of these, but a couple of them that I think are important to talk about. We continue to do the officer safety program, which several of you came out and have seen over the course of the last couple of years, including right here in this room. We were doing an active shooter drill shortly before the shooting that they had at the school in St. Louis. So we practice that style of response by our officers on a regular basis. We've expanded the officer safety program a bit, and we've gone to a tabletop process. So what the tabletop process does is it's in-house at the conference room in the police department, and we will build a scenario for what will be our watch commanders, our lieutenants. We've been doing it with our sergeants. We put them under the gun, so to speak, on a stressful situation, sitting in the conference room. Might be a major accident, and we ask them questions. We put them under the gun with dispatching, and we make them make decisions in real time with us sitting there critiquing what they're doing. It's not fun for these folks to do, and there's tons of different tabletop exercises that we can do. Chris Gibson does these, and the couple that we've done so far have been really successful. So in 2023, we're going to expand that program and torture our sergeants and lieutenants just a little bit more. We've requested, and I'll talk a minute about the requested officers, but in 2023, the recruiting of police officers is a real challenge for all departments. I sat in a meeting today with 8 ECDC chiefs of police, and every one of them is looking for officers. Everybody's looking to hire, and that makes the qualified applicant pool shrink tremendously, especially in this environment that we all know today. So recruitment and hiring of these officers may be a challenge, but we'll be working on it if approved. The other thing that I'd like to mention on the list of accomplishments, and I often am quick to recognize Major McIntyre for this because he runs our CALEA program. This last compliance, we were at 100%. It's extremely difficult to do. If you saw all the moving parts of what Jim does and assisted by our contracted person for CALEA, what they do on a daily basis and really are required to do on a daily basis has reached that 100% level that many departments don't get. So when you start looking at the accomplishments of 2022, Major McIntyre and our staff that did all of that work for CALEA should be complimented for that. The last thing I was going to mention is we have developed a succession training in the police department as part of our plan to move forward. And really, I think to sum that up, there's, in a small police department, there are integral positions that if we don't have people that can duplicate what these folks are doing, you unplug them out of the police department and we become very challenged to try and do our jobs. So we have created a succession plan to duplicate some of the things that folks do. I'll just give you a very quick example. Major Angie Hawkins is very, she's being pressed very hard to learn what Jim does in the administrative side. He's got a list of about 67 things he does throughout the course of the year on a regular basis. Angie, if Jim gets run over by a train tonight, we're in big trouble. So we have Angie training. That's just an example. There are plenty of others. Our training sergeant, our detective sergeant. There's a lot of different positions that we have in the police department that we really need to identify and focus on having folks that can step in if we need them to do it in a case of an illness or whatever it may be. So that's part of the accomplishments from 2022 is that's well underway at this point. Salaries and wages, this slides in here just simply because we asked for 3 additional positions for the park that are in the budget for this year. And I've had questions, and I'd like to address it, that some folks might go, is that a bit of an overkill to have 3 officers to hire for the park? If that park's open at daybreak and it closes at sunset every day of the year, we need at least 3 people. We have done the schedule with 3 officers, and we still have to plug in with our road officers on days. So it's going to be a challenge even with 3 cops. So that's working 10-hour shifts, full-time. Doesn't count any overtime. But those 3 officers will cover that park area, and then hopefully eventually that Manchester corridor as it gets expanded. That will be their assignment, and hopefully, the goal is to have an officer there in the park each day. So 3 officers covers it, but it's going to be a shuffle for us, especially if someone's out sick, ill for something. So, but it will be covered. That's why that slides in there in terms of our wages. The asset forfeiture fund, last year, BOLA approved us to take $5,000 and put it in little sections or buckets in the asset forfeiture account. As you guys know, the asset forfeiture fund is to be spent, there's restrictions on that money in terms of what it can be spent on. It is specifically for law enforcement, and it's specific to certain things in law enforcement. Not all are covered. But we wanted the opportunity to be, when things come up during the year, and they did this year, might be a training event, might be a piece of equipment or something like that, that fits into the criteria of the asset forfeiture funding, then we wanted the opportunity to be able to do that, and putting that into the budget is why it's there. The last thing on this list is simply our capital items, and going into 2023, the only capital items that we have are our 2 police cars. There was some discussion, I think, about miniature radios, both for police and fire. We've deferred that. That's not going to be included in the 2023 consideration for purchase. So capital items, that's all we have. Be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Yeah, I've got a question about the increase in community relations. It appears that that number's gone up 150%. Is that because of the bike program, the increase of costs of what the bike program is going to be, or is that with an anticipation that you're going to do more events like you do at Broughton Park, where you bring the community together? Because I think both of those are good, successful programs, but I just didn't know if that was why that line item increased.
Yes, you hit on items that would be included in the cost. And last year, I believe we were at $1,500, correct? So it's a $1,000 increase for going into 23 for those costs.
Okay, and then the 95,000, is that for both vehicles or 95,000 for one?
That's for 2 vehicles.
Oh, 2 vehicles, okay.
And that includes a cost increase that we talked about, I believe, last time I saw you guys, of about $7,000 per car. And then you also have an increase in the cost of the equipment to put in the car.
Yeah, so that's just the cars themselves, not the equipment included.
That's everything.
That's everything, okay.
Right? That'll cover everything for us, James, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, we hope.
Short of a really high increase in light bars and things like that, we try and transition as much as we can out of the old car into the new one. Most of our equipment can transition.
Okay, thank you.
Alderwoman Tice?
I'd just like to comment that I'm definitely supportive of these additional officers that are in the budget. It's probably one of the biggest things that comes up in our ward meetings, and just talking to people that they're excited for the park, they're concerned about the safety, and then they're also concerned about cars getting stolen and cars speeding. So the fact that we're not, I'm sure we'll still be spread thin, but the fact that we're adding new officers will help with that, just as a comment. And then the miscellaneous contractual has gone up quite a bit, and you may have mentioned it in your discussion, but it went up from estimated, I usually look at estimated instead of last year's budget, but estimated 350 this year, and it's going up to 425. I know we budgeted more last year, but what didn't we spend this year? And
So the moving target on that miscellaneous contractual for the police department each year is the ECDC cost.
Okay.
And that varies each year. To exasperate that next year, we have at least one, but probably two cities that are leaving ECDC. We really don't know. We have one leave though, right? Right.
Session right now and engaging the Webster Grove City Manager, so I have not confirmed that.
Point being, we don't know that it's a moving number, and we don't know the answer to exactly what we're going to pay out throughout the year. That's the big cost on this.
I'm happy to respond to that as well. You know, kind of like the city's personnel budget, people do get raises if they meet performance expectation. So, and if those cities can fund any kind of merit increase, you budget for that. There are people who take calls at ECDC, so a majority of their budget is also personnel driven. And we're trying to get them to a similar 75% that we have for non-uniform in Brentwood. So that is primarily the cost of that going up every year, and we're mindful of that. So when the chief says it's unpredictable, it's predictable to the extent that you want to pay your employees a good market wage. And we factor that in, given the fact that their fiscal year starts in July 1, and ours is from January through December. So we're budgeting for 2 fiscal years within 1 year. So we bump that up a little bit. So the unpredictability of that is driven by that.
that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I did have a question about, on page 95, when we look at Prop P, and it's more for the projection as we continue, seeing the trend of it, sort of the balance of the Prop P money, you know, starting to drop off significantly. And I'll let you kind of turn to that. The question is more, if it looks like the trend carries through to 2026 and 2027, where would and we have no balance left in Prop P, where do we expect those funds to be kind of coming from? Just general fund, just going general fund now.
No other source for it. It would have to come from general fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Mueller, do you have any questions? I would just echo Alderwoman Tice's sentiment. I don't think we can spend $96 million on a project. Oh, I also support. Questions, so thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, ma'am.
At this time, Bola, did you say that there were some summary issues that you wanted to cover?
It depends, so my part of it, it depends on what you all want me to talk about. Do you feel you have sufficient information on St. Louis County? There was an email earlier this afternoon.
So the answer,
you have no.
I have a day job, and I had a hair on fire day, so I did not.
I'm happy to provide an update.
So I have not seen that email.
So as you know, the mayor went before I think it's the Personnel and Revenue Committee on Monday, and provided a timeline as to when the city discovered and contacted both St. Louis County and the state regarding the revenue numbers that we didn't feel were accurate. And we did the groundbreaking this afternoon and got back to the office, and I had a voice message and then a call from folks from the St. Louis County Treasury Operations Department. And they had done the calculation of how much they would want the city to remit. So, you know, earlier I was told that they were just going to do the first month, and it was going to take some time to do all the subsequent months. But today they sent me an Excel spreadsheet that had the calculation for the months of June, July, August, September, and October. And the total amount that they are asking the city to remit is $7,076,580.13. We had predicted that it would be between 2 to 6 million. So we were somewhat surprised when the calculation came back at 7 million. So I asked Gina to do a through September comparison to last year. And if we were to go by how much they're asking the city to remit, our sales tax for that 1%, we would see a 5% decrease in sales tax from 21 to 22 based on St. Louis County's calculation. And when we talk to other cities and look at some of the other funds that are remitted to the city from the state, we're seeing at least a 3 to 5% increase. So we find it quite interesting that St. Louis County is saying that this is a 5% decrease. So when I spoke to them, I said that, for lack of a better word to describe what the city would want, we would want an audit of these numbers because we want transparency. We want to have a sit-down meeting in person rather than an email that just shows not even a formula or all the back information on this, but how they arrived at that number. So already Dan Cook with Cook and Riley, they're already reviewing this. Gina has also looked at our income statement. And as I indicated in my email to the mayor, we would also want the state auditor's office to take a look at how this calculation is done. There is a process in asking them to take on this, so it has to be a formal letter, but I hope to get that out to them before the end of the week. So that's the update on St. Louis County. It doesn't change any of our projected revenue numbers for 2023, but as we continue to engage them, I'll be providing regular updates to the Board of Aldermen.
Are they able to engage in, for lack of a better phrase, self-help in advance of, this? I mean, of course, we're the ones that identified the error and brought it to their attention, so we will back. We just want it to be correct.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact,
In advance of that, are they just gonna, we're just gonna hold back money? I mean,
Well,
can they do that?
They could possibly do that. They have not indicated that they will be doing that, but I guess that would probably depend on how quickly or not the city remits those funds back to them. In their email to me, they say, please let me know when we can expect these funds returned.
I mean, are they serious? Did they say, I mean, I don't, like, that just, I mean, it's not an approach I would have taken. But I know that these are serious people. So, I mean, are they just getting the ball rolling? I mean, of course that they would expect it.
Yes, we would like
Kind
a
of.
wire sent as soon as possible so that we can distribute the money to the correct parties. And I understand that there are municipalities out there that are missing money for, 5-6 months. And so some of them are in greater dire straits that need that money, urgently. And we just want to make sure that we can trust the numbers that are given to us. And just based on what I received today, I would not recommend to the city to remit anything at this point.
Is there any kind of roadmap as to how we get there in terms of?
We've started our own audit with Dan Cook, and Gina's also looking at it, and then it's the state auditors. But I think a good thing to share is when I did speak with Jody Patterson from the Treasury Operations Department, and I indicated our concerns, she said she would want to explore further and talk to the state that maybe they can assist. So, there's hope that they understand that we have, sufficient concern, and they're willing to come to the table to help us get over those concerns. So that's the first update. Then there were a couple of questions that were asked at the last meeting, and Eric will give a summary of what those items are.
Evening. I'll try to make these quick. I know there's some questions at the last couple of meetings, and hopefully I catch them all. If I miss one, please just let me know. And they're really no particular order, so just as I kind of got them situated. But one was budgeting enough for signs and traffic calming and that in the capital budget. And I think, I wanted to make sure that it was understood that what we did with signs and traffic calming is much like what we did with the fire department furniture. So we transferred it from the capital fund into the operation. It really doesn't fit the capital definition anymore. And to be honest, as we are not struggling, but as we are tight with our capital budget, we want to ensure that anything that is in that budget really fits that capital definition. Anything that's operational really should be operational. Why those were in the capital, I couldn't tell you. I don't know if it goes back to a time where it was vice versa and the general fund was a little bit tighter and there's more money in capital and that was just a way to pay for things. But we feel like this is the better, more prudent way of doing things. So that's why you don't see it in capital anymore, but it should be in Dan's operational budget moving forward. The forestry account. There's a question about that, and the biggest reason is that the city this year finished up our 5-year emerald ash borer plan. And that was 250 trees. Over the 5 years, it averaged about $100,000 a year to remove those trees and then plant new trees. And so that's the biggest reason for this decrease. You'll see the change, the funding changes every year, and that's because we look at the assessment rotation by ward. So this year's Ward 1, which has more trees than Ward 2 and Ward 4, so that's why you see kind of goes up a little bit, goes down a little bit, goes up. It's all based on what ward we're doing that year and how many trees we'll have to prune and things like that. And again, stop me if you have questions. I'm just keep going. Trail upkeep. Alderman Gould asked about trail upkeep for the Parks and Recreation Department. And yeah, we do have money in the park maintenance budget for patches. We actually can work with the Public Works Department from time to time, and if they have a backlog, then we'll just contract someone. Bigger, longer stretches would be capital, and those trails are within our capital improvement plan. So that's in our CIP. I know we're kind of looking right now with everything else. I mean, capital's tight even in Parks and Recreation, so it's kind of sitting there. We also are looking to see what the master plan says, especially in Rogers Parkway, if they want to follow that Rogers Parkway plan that was designed a few years ago, which would be a very different view of that thing and be concrete as well. And personally, my goal is to kind of get all of our asphalt trails into concrete as we move forward, just for the durability factor. So that is kind of where we're at with trails. The sewer lateral fund. I know we talked about that. You guys talked about that for a little bit. So the total replacement amount that was due back to the general fund was $225,000. To date, $68,300 has been repaid, including $18,300 this year. That leaves a balance of $156,700 to be repaid to the sewer lateral fund. Or, sorry, the general fund from the sewer lateral fund. We made the recommendation to bump that up to that $90,000 that was in there, a little bit over $90,000, because after 2021, our fund balance in the fund was at 200%. I think we had a yearly expenditure of $80,000 and our fund balance was $160,000. And so the thought was when staff made that recommendation is we could repay the general fund a little bit quicker. And by doing it, even if we transferred another $78,000 like we recommend, it reduced the balance to $78,500. So then we're looking at maybe a 4 to 5 year payoff of the general fund with a fund balance still being about 100%, because we'd be at 80 and or 112 and 112, I believe, if I remember correctly. So that's kind of where we're at with the sewer lateral fund. So it's just a way to kind of hopefully be done with that sort of financial kind of accounting and make sure everyone's whole as quickly as possible. The Memorial Bridge replacement. Yes, the $90,000 we budgeted, but if we remember during Public Works, our bids were $200,000. They're over $200,000, so that increased over 100%. And this bridge is the bigger, longer bridge over Black Creek by the inline rink. So that's the bridge that we're budgeting for this year. So we did the quick cost estimate with Horner and Schifrin, and what they gave us is what we put in the budget. The other bridge is still, we're working with FEMA since that bridge was underwater twice during the flooding, and we hope to be able to utilize FEMA funds to replace that bridge. So that's that one. And the last and most fun one is banners on the Manchester corridor. So thankfully, you guys were talking through, I was able to go through the 800 pages of MoDOT wonderful drawings. And if you want to go to page 714, there is a rendering of the banner pole. So we actually have a banner pole, and I think Bola put that in board docs. So if I count it right, I saw at least 8. that go through the Manchester corridor. It has the Brentwood, what we're calling now the Brentwood seal on one side, and then the banner, the place to put the banners on the other side. So I remembered that. I couldn't remember exactly. I was happy we kind of found it. So I believe those were the questions. Did I miss any?
Questions?
Right. Hopefully we'll get updated budgets to the board at the board meeting on Monday night, so everyone has a fresh new copy and no writing, and everything will be ready to go for you guys.
So the plan is, because we just posted the public hearing notice, is to have a first reading of the fiscal year 2023 recommended budget at the November 17th meeting, the next meeting, not Monday, after the Monday meeting, and then the second reading at the December meeting.
Are there any other items to cover regarding the budget? Any other questions? So I guess at this point, Chair would entertain a motion to
So moved.
Second.
second. Is there any discussion?
Chairwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Shelton,
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Everyone for all your hard work. I feel like it has gone in years past, so I know that's because a lot of time and effort went into it. All right, moving on. We've got one item under. We don't have any new business, and I guess we don't have any department reports, and we don't have any old business. I'm seeing item 7A, a quarterly report on ambulance fee write-offs.
Thank you. Again, just a quarterly report, request approval for the write-off in the amount of $17,882.05. Questions?
High amount to write off, or higher than in years past.
It is slightly higher. So second quarter of this year was the highest we've seen, but there was write-offs that dated back to 2017. So this one was cleaned up quite a bit. In the report, you will see there is now a line item for homelessness. So we are tracking that now at our request. So.
Questions as to? Okay, well, I guess Chair entertain a motion to $1,882.05.
So moved.
Second.
Ice, all right, seeing none, roll call.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Shelton,
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice. Motion carries.
Last item is item 8, which is citizen comment. Do we have, again, we have hollowed out the gallery of citizens. Are there any people online who have a question or a comment? No one attends the meetings. All right, well, at this point, seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.